ladies and gentlemen, it is so easy for Derril to come up here and say that, okay, the commander only give comments, they would concede, but the one who prosecute those things are the soldiers. Yeah, that's an exact thing and an obvious thing of the debate. The soldiers is the one that do operations, and the commanders is the one that sit in the United States of America, meanwhile the other are in Middle East. But the question of the debate isn't a question of who prosecute those things on the ground, but who gives the comment for the people and who should be held responsible for the things, ladies and gentlemen. So we don't necessarily think that is just a valid reason for you to give in this debate. Because notice when he came up here and said that, oh, it's a selfish interest for them to kill these individuals. It's untrue, right? Because if you're so selfish, like intentionally killing other people, considering the fact that the comments from Commander is so strong and so persuasive, more often than not, you will not kill that other innocent people because if you kill, you will be fired as well under their side. So it's not true that you have a selfish interest and the intention to kill these individuals to begin with. Those are becoming the source of the commanders and not these individuals to do so. Because let's be clear, what is Gulf burden in this debate? Gulf burden isn't to tell you that soldiers can actually criticize, can actually avoid, can actually not do those things. But their burden is to explain what is the ratio behind of them doing, what is the ratio behind it of them capable out of doing so, which if I don't think I've ever been explained in this debate. I will answer several things in my speech. First off, I'm going to talk about, is it justified to accept the vicarious liability? Second, I'm going to talk about the reformations of military. And lastly, I'll tell you why eradicating vicarious liability hinders the solvency of war. First off, let's talk about the justifications point, right? Is it justified to accept vicarious liability? They told us that, oh, these soldiers already consented to do so, thus we need to prosecute them. I don't think so. Like, this is not an ideal form of consent. Considering the fact that now you are forced to do so and to follow the demands of your commander, that's not an ideal form of consent. That is a forceful consent, ladies and gentlemen. But we will concede when again tells you that you have the capacity to criticize. But we think it is untrue because the hierarchy is just cultivated and entrenched to the soldiers. We're not living in a conditions where you can simply call out and criticize those things to begin with. More often than not, you are unable to do and you're just reluctant to do so because you felt that your commander has contributed so much to the growth of your inside military system. But second, even if you can criticize, like literally, this debate is not about when you current conditions, without this law, you can criticize, right? That's their burden. Not telling us after this, then there will be an ability to criticize. It's a different thing, right? Because in order for you to be prosecuted, you need to be able to firstly prove that in current situations, without their responsibility, you are able to criticize, not after applying their responsibility. So that's just untrue. But second, even if you can criticize under their sides, it is still less effective because your criticism will just be seen as inferior one. It will only be seen as a small criticism to begin with. They will not be perceived as a legitimate form of criticism because it is not from the commander, it is just from you as a soldier. When you said that you can collectively bargain, it didn't change the commands of the leaders, so your criticism does not really work under your side. But here's the most important reasons why criticism under their side cannot work. Because notice that the command that is being given by the commander are more likely come inside the war and during the war, not before the war. The conditions inside and during the war is so complex and complicated. You cannot expect individuals to be able to rationalize and calculate everything. Okay, what my commander said is wrong, so I just need to reject all of those things. You are in a conditions of dilemma where you need to be able to choose. If you don't, because the retorts that your commander gives, if you don't follow my order, then what you are going to do, you are also going to sacrifice other forms of individuals. So you are in a dilemma position that cannot even negate the fact of your commander. So you are forced to do in that situation. This justifications, if I may tell you, was not becoming a single consideration of Derril, very dismissive. Second, let's talk about the formations of military, right? Because what Derril introduces to you is that so dismissive. He didn't even negate Hanum's point, whereas soldiers are now have less of the ability and less of the willingness to report all of the evidences that happens during the war, right? Because they are afraid out of being prosecuted as well. The only defense Derril has is by running from that burden and telling you that your interest is winning war. That's not a good response for you because that's running away from your burden. Why then military in the soldiers under your side would more likely report towards all of those things. But let's talk about interest of winning war. I think under your sides, you will still have this interest either, right, of winning a war because that's just your responsibility as well under your sides. But we think creating a just war isn't an argument to prosecute the soldiers, but an argument to enforce international humanitarian law standards to begin with. Because under current status quo, you can just, for example, that you are able to currently ban the destructive war or destructive weapons that can harm innocent people. So I think interest of winning war is not a consideration of this debate. This is the third thing that I'm going to tell you, which is the most important thing. Why eradicating vicarious liability hinders the solvency of war. Notice that in current situations, we have a lot of complicated conflict, either in Middle East or other conflicting areas. What we need in these situations is that a massive number of troops and fast operations to save the lives of people. The scenario that is more likely to happen under their sights is either one, less of troops will engage to it because now they know I might end up being prosecuted and being held liable for my operations there. But number two, even if more troops happens under their sight or engage in that conflict, it's going to take a longer time because now they will be more skeptical to their commanders. They keep on questioning whether or not the comments are legitimate. Now they're not forming a military in a unity. They're spread and they're not function as how it's supposed to be, ladies and gentlemen. We will concede under our sides. Maybe a fast time of war to some extent might be reckless. But notice the lives of people are being jeopardized. And what we need to do now is at least save the people. As opposed to your sides, when you take a longer time, individuals on the ground, maybe after 1 second you deny them, they already died, ended up spoiled by ISIS, right? So under your sides, you cannot deny the fact that war will take a very long time because now you have to keep questioning and you have to always criticize your commander. There's no trust between that military operations, considering the fact that now if I follow the commanders, I might also end up being prosecuted. I think that maybe this motion does not sound intuitive for opposition, but you need to take a look on the bigger picture that the ability of the individuals to solve war should be the #1 priority and to save the lives of people who are very proud to oppose.